Hello, good morning. Welcome to Ukraine Media Center. I'm Alina Frolova, and we will talk on a very important topic now about social support for Ukrainians in 2024. I hope that we will talk about changes that we will witness in 2025, about current initiatives and how we live through this year. We have here Dariia Marchak. She is first Deputy Minister for Social Policy in Ukraine. Let's define what is social support, what categories of people we are talking about, what categories of expenditure. A very good and correct question, because our social narrative is that social support is payments. What state pays is payment. But if we look at the best practices in European countries, then the countries that have the biggest, highest welfare and well-being level, they have a different philosophy about social support. It's about the state, which in the crisis which happens in people's lives, helps people to restore their forces, their potential to have full-fledged life. So in contrast to the Ukrainian concept of social support as payments, the progressive approach which we are now implementing and developing in our country is social support as a set of tools that help people to overcome complicated life circumstances and come back to the full-fledged social and economic life independent of the state. First of all, this is about social services. The market of social services in Ukraine is very weakly developed. It has started to be implemented a couple of years ago, but in many European countries, or in Japan, or in US, they have the term of care economy. Let's look at the Japanese anime or Japanese films. We see that quite often the successful life of aged people is about people who have limited functionality, but they have people who are taking care of them at their homes. In Australia, for instance, there are people who help aged people who became loners. They help them to go to the cinema or otherwise have some entertainment. It's the people who help you feel comfortable. These services are almost non-developed in Ukraine, so this complex that we are talking about is our first direction. The second direction, of course, is payments that we are used to, but on the inferent angle. The third direction is prosthetics and the help to people who lost the functionality of their body to regain this functionality. So this is social support. If we're talking about this market of services, do I understand correctly that both state and private sector will be represented there? Absolutely. The market for services is, on the one hand, a huge potential for the state to improve the quality of life and comfort of life for people who need help. But it is also reserved for medium-sized and small businesses to develop their activity. If we're talking about providers of services in a small community, then it's not going to be huge firms. This may be, for instance, a family who are specializing in this and can provide services to their fellow members of the community. Also, the care of children, we call it municipal nanny. Let's say there's a block of flats where 3 or 4 IDP families live there, and they have a mother and children, and they cannot go to a kindergarten because this kindergarten does not have the shelter. So those moms will stay at home, taking care of their kids. But if we look at this from the point of view of social services, we say let one mom take under protection, under care, the kids from all the 4 moms. We will, as a state, pay her a minimum wage for every child. So this leads to other moms being able to go and work. This is the ideal form of state-public or public-private partnership, where the state is a customer and enterprises, including some big enterprises, are providers of those services, and this is the combination that provides for the development of the economy. However, local budgets and local communities are very important players in this respect, because the law says that it is local communities that have to provide for social services. However, we do understand that there's still not enough attention to this issue, so we as a state are entering this sphere as the third powerful player in order to define standards and what services to be developed where. What was happening to payments, the classical element of social support? Did we have enough money? And do I understand correctly that part of these payments is covered by the money from our partners who finance some targeted projects? What about compensations, for instance, for destruction of housing? Is it also included here? What do we spend as a state? If we talk about the compensation for damaged property, this is not social payments. These are payments that are aimed at the restoring people's rights to have their own property. If we conceptualize social services first, this is the block of, not services but payments. This is the payments that are aimed at fighting poverty, to protect families from the risk of poverty. At the moment we have at least 6 payments centralized aimed at protection from poverty, and this is a huge problem that there are 6 of them, because every payment is small, it is fragmented, and in order to get enough social support, families have to go and apply for several payments, and then we hear that those payments are small, but we do not take into account that there may be several payments that families receive. We want to reform this situation. We have developed a bill about basic social help, assistance. So the logic there is, instead of collecting small insignificant payments, you could not even come, but take your phone and through the DS system automatically apply, and you will be assigned state help even without physical communication with the state. This reform is at a huge level of preparedness, but it is important that MPs vote for it. We will table it in the parliament soon. There will be first reading. So this is the first block of payments. Generally, it is very important that we are paying something like 40 such payments on the state level. This is too much, because when you have 40 payments, what we see from our people's applications, people do not understand which payments they are entitled to, and this creates a huge risk that we do not provide the financial assistance. On the other hand, the social protection bodies are confused. The administering is difficult, it is long, so we are moving towards consolidation of the number of payments without the decrease in the amount of payments. On the contrary, we want to raise the amounts, but we want to decrease the burden that the state and people are having administering this. Then there are payments for caring about people, of taking care of people. There's a huge space for optimization as far as the way these payments are effected is concerned, and our people, our citizens, have to have more right, have to have the right to more support in the care-taking sphere. And then there are stimulating payments which aim at assisting people to direct their life into certain directions. The key example here is payments for children who are being adopted or who are being taken care of, as we have a huge priority to attain the situation when all children who are in the boarding houses, or those who are orphaned or are deprived of parents' care, we are paying both for every child which is being taken under protection, but we also pay wages to parents who take those children under their protection. And this is what we are going to do. What about payments to internally displaced people? There's a huge talk now about changes in this sphere. There's a lot of questions in social networks. What's going to be changed here? And by the way, how many IDPs we have now who need help? As of today, we have 4.7 IDPs, people who have the status of IDPs. However, you have to understand the details of these statistics, because out of those 4.7 million, 3.5 million people are those who were displaced since 2022, and the rest are those who were displaced since 2014, and part of them are fully integrated in new communities. So we have 3.5 million IDPs who were displaced since 2022, and out of them almost 1 million are people who have IDP status, but their communities now are in security, are secure, safe, they are not in the combat zone. Out of those IDPs who left the combat zone or for temporarily occupied territories, or those who have lost their property or damaged their property as a result of firing, 2 million receive assistance from the state. It has been appointed to a family, taking into account the income of the family, and I would say that the key changes that concern IDP payments were already affected last year and the year before last. we have changed the order in July 2022, and the key change was when the payments were introduced in March 2022. These were the first weeks of the full-scale invasion, and many or even majority of us thought that the war would last for 2 or 3 months, but then the martial law was extended and again extended. We all understood that the issue of the term of the full-scale invasion is undetermined. As a country, our financial resource is limited, and the budget for 2025, of course, shows how this restriction influences our ability to pay social support payments. The number of those people who need payments increases, the number of people who pay taxes decreases. So these are scissors, and people who feel the stress, who were forced to be displaced, could understand that they have a year or 18 months to adapt, and then if those people have able-bodied people, employable people, they have to do this, because the state does see the increase in number of people who need more payments. In July 2022, we told our people that this payment is not forever, and for the first 6 months now we pay almost unconditionally. For instance, those IDPs who, for instance, from the city of Sumy, because of the obligatory evacuation or the higher level of danger, they may apply to the Department for Social Protection almost unconditionally, and we will pay them for 6 months, but then there's another 6 months which says that if you do not have an opportunity to look and find a job, then we will pay you, but on condition that the income of your family is low. However, if you are an employable person, you at least have to go to a job center and get registered there, or to go to skills upgrading courses. We have introduced these changes in July 2023 and in January 2024, so we have customized this assistance to the form that we think it should be. So the assistance to IDPs will be there as a crisis tool for help people to relocate. The classical question and issue is pensions. What's going on with, what's happening with pensions? Will we witness any changes next year? Well, of course, pensions is the most painful and the favorite topic for me. The most favorite because I designate at least 50% of my team's time to this. We think that the pension system should be reformed. We have developed the model of solidarity provision of pensions, which will change the system in the future. We are obliged to make the system simple and understandable. I'm working with this every day. Let's be honest. When social surveys say that, with evidence that people do not understand why these pensions are paid in such amounts and in such a way. I understand those people because the system is exceptionally complicated, has too many collisions, is not just enough. It contains many situations when the sizes of pensions are so low that the state has to make additional pensions to raise them to an acceptable level. We have, for instance, the cases when people get 2,800 hryvnia per month. But when you look at the structure, then you see that there's 700 hryvnia that they receive as a basic pension, and all the rest is additional payments from the state. There are dozens of additional payments with which the state tries to solve this situation. So we think that we have to correct this problem. We have developed the bill, the draft law on solidarity pensions, and this is based on the models that is used in Germany, Austria, Lithuania, Latvia, Cyprus, and other countries. The key feature of this system is that it is very simple and it works well. We are testing this usually, and the person can understand how this works and on what the size of their pension depends, so people understand this within 10 minutes. So the model is like this. You have a certain number, a certain amount of contributions that you make every month from your salary, and you know the number of points that you earn every month, and you know the value of this point that you earn. And this is enough to calculate your pension. So it is very important for us to make this system simple. When we introduce this reform, a big number of pensioners who are now receiving a small size, I would say even lowered pensions, they will start to receive the just amount of their pension, and we will lose the necessity for many additional payments. And of course this will allow to restore the just character of pensions for many citizens of Ukraine. Besides, we understand that apart from this problem of being too complicated, we have to explain to the people how what they do now influences what they will get in the future. I hear quite often the question, why should we make contributions today if we will get very low pensions? So this is sort of a forecast that they make for themselves. But the system, how does it work? If I pay today, this does increase the amount of pension fund. And we even attain the possibility to pay more pensions to bigger size of pensions to those who already receive pensions. And if I pay contributions, then this increases the amount of the pension I will get. If we don't pay contributions, then I will probably not even receive any pension at all, or I will receive low pension. What we have to understand, every person in Ukraine, that paying contributions and investing in our own future, whatever they say, some people say, and quite a lot of people say that state pensions are not needed, but the Kyiv School of Economics have conducted a social survey with some agencies about how people plan their old age. So the absolute majority of the people count on the state pension. So let's now think about what we do in this respect. So what about the reform? When we will see it, when it will be voted for? We would very much like to pass it tomorrow or maybe even today. But in reality, the reform has been there. The plan has been there for quite some time. We are agreeing it with key stakeholders. We are intensively discussing it with the Ministry of Finance, and when we will be able to agree the financial component of the reform, we will be able to finally put it for consideration to the Cabinet of Ministers and Verkhovna Rada. We would like, of course, this reform to start to work even this year, but this is not realistic. We will have to spend quite a lot of time to submit it to the Cabinet of Ministers, then 2 readings in the Verkhovna Rada, and because it is very huge, it is rather large amount of work. We cannot predict how long the Verkhovna Rada will be considering it, but it is very much needed for the country. It will help to restore the just amount of pensions so that we do not have cases when people were working in a similar professions and earning and paying in a similar way, but now they get the pensions which are twofold different. Okay, what is the fiscal burden that the social bloc creates for the budget? What is planned for the budget, and do we have money for this? As far as the fiscal burden is concerned, before the full-scale invasion, the social budget was the biggest component in the budget of the country. Now it is the second component as far as the size is concerned, with a huge gap. But this is evident that you have to finance, first of all, defense needs. And you said rightly at the beginning that almost 100% of our social budget is being financed by our international partners, and most of that money is not grants but loans. So we are increasing our debt when we finance this, and this is why it is very important to us. I would say, put it so, the amount of this support is limited, and for the next year, as you may have seen in the news, although we would like to see the rise in the expenditure for social sphere, we still plan the decrease in social payments. And the reason for this is that the financial resource for the next year is going to be even more limited than this year. We understand that we will be able to finance the needs for social payments, the expenditures for social services and prosthetics, but for us, in order to be able to help everyone who needs this, we will work to tie and target the social help. So we're talking about targeting the social payments which have to go to those who need them most. So we will check the financial and property status of people when we will decide who will get social services and social payments. And this is the only guarantee that we will have enough money in the next budget to affect social payments. As far as pensions are concerned, I would say that The discussion is still going on. The key thing that our people should know is that social help and pensions will be paid, of course. The state will never abandon its obligations. We all understand that the help to the most vulnerable categories of people and pensioners who have no other source of income is the desire and responsibility of the state. But yes, the budget for the next year is going to be very complicated. Thank you very much. I would also like to talk about prosthetics with you, but regrettably our time is limited. I would suggest that you talk to my colleagues who know everything in detail. So we were talking about social payments, about what the situation is in 2024, and our guest was Dariia Marchak, First Deputy Minister for Social Policy in Ukraine. Thank you very much. Please stay with us. Our next panel discussion will be devoted to gender issues.